50% of all pregnancies in the United States are unplanned. If you are experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, you might be feeling happy, yet scared, and questions might be racing through your mind. Who should I tell? What will my family think? How am I going to afford this? What is the father going to say? Trust me, I've been there too. Take a deep breath and listen to me say that this is not the end of the world. No matter what circumstances have led you to this moment, they do not define your future. Although you might be feeling out of control, there are many paths you can take from here. You can choose to parent, abort, or place your child for adoption. Understand that none of those options are the easy, but how you choose to handle this pregnancy will affect the rest of your life. I chose adoption because it was the best option for me and my child. If you would like to talk with someone about all of your options, or if you have a loved one facing this situation, please contact Legacy Adoption Services at 817-899-5000 or visit their website at legacyadoptions.com. All of the Legacy services are free and confidential. Remember, many have walked this path before, and you are not alone.
Nolan River Animal Hospital provides outstanding veterinary care. We are a full-service hospital and wellness center for small animals, including dogs, cats, and pocket pets. We offer vaccination and preventative medical care, spays, and neuters. In addition, we offer pain management, diagnostic, soft tissue surgery, radiology, and dental services. We are located in Cleburne, Texas, on North Nolan River Road, directly across from the high school. Address 893A North Nolan River Road, or give us a call at 817-558-6724 for more information.
Hello, everybody. We are live on Empowered to Speak with Tiffany Cooch.
And Julie Bransom.
And tonight, is one of my favorite people is here. Tina Dean is here from Legacy Adoptions. Hello.
Hey, Tiffany.
So you finally brought Rebecca, and I'm so excited I got to meet you again for the second time.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Even though I didn't remember the first time. It's a joy to see you again.
Yeah.
So I would like for you to introduce her and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So tonight, Legacy wanted to bring in another kind of something different with modern adoptions that we think is a really important message for many women who are out there, even families of women who have an unplanned pregnancy. And we wanted to talk about seeking wise counsel. Seeking wise counsel can mean something different to so many different people. But for instance, my grandmother this last week, 89-year-old grandmother, she had her hip, which has been replaced before, pop out of socket. And, we as a family could have said, hey, you know what, let's just pop it back in. We can do that at home, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, that would be silly. That would be ridiculous to do that. So what did we do? We sought wise counsel. We took her to the emergency room, and they took care of it. So when somebody comes to you and they're pregnant, or if you yourself are pregnant and this is not a planned situation, it's not necessarily a happy situation. It could be a scary, overwhelming situation. What you should really do is seek wise counsel. And that wise counsel can be so many different things. That wise counsel can be talking to a pregnancy center. It can be talking to an adoption agency. Talking to an agency does not mean you're doing an adoption. It means you're getting educated on your options. It means talking to churches. It means talking to so many different people. And, one of the things that I think people need to remember is that seeking wise counsel is also talked about in the Bible. There's a Bible verse, Proverbs 11:14, that says, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. So if that's not telling us and reiterating that we should be seeking counsel from others when we're making important decisions in our life, I don't know what is. And on top of that, pray. Pray about those decisions. And so what I want to make a real big point about as we go through everything and talking about Rebecca's story, and she's got an amazing, amazing story to share. Mm-hmm. Just like you, Tiffany, yours is amazing, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, I think it's going to touch someone. But when we talk about these women that come to us as an agency, out of 10 women, 5 out of 10 women that we actually sit down and meet with and talk to about what adoption is, only like 5 of them place their child for adoption. The rest choose to take that baby home and parent them. And we help them. We help them find resources. And that's Rebecca's story. It's totally different than what Tiffany chose. But that's okay.
But that's okay because when I was making that choice, y'all educated me on everything. I didn't have to choose adoption.
Right.
I could have chose to keep her and live in a motel room and struggle and I just couldn't do it. It just wasn't fair. I didn't want to be there.
But
you know what I
looked
mean?
into it, and
But I looked into every option,
You thought
and
of-
y'all were honest about everything. Like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this.
you
Do
sought
what
that
your
wise
heart,
counsel.
yeah. But I had to seek counsel. God told me to seek counsel.
But what's great is that you took the time to look into that, just like Rebecca did, and thinking about what are the best things for me? What do I need to do to think of my child's best interests? And sometimes that is putting your life in a position to take a baby home. Sometimes it's not. And whichever it is that's the right thing for each individual person. And so, Rebecca, I'm going to share just a little bit of your story, Rebecca, because I know you do an amazing job of it. So Rebecca was pregnant, and she had been isolated from her family, our family, for several years. And she had made choices in her life that had just put a gap there, I guess is the best way to put it. And she knew when she became pregnant that it was a time in her life.
More like a canyon than a gap, maybe.
Hey, you said it. You can say that, not me. But she knew that it was a time in her life that she had some big decisions to make. And for Rebecca, she chose that it was in the best interest of her child to reach back out to her family and say, I need help. Will you welcome me back home so I can make these decisions in a safe place? But not only did she reach out to her family, she reached out to her church, to Gateway Church. She reached out to a pregnancy center, Pregnancy Help for You. She reached out to me through an adoption agency to see what services were available, what was going to be different options for her. She reached out to Valiant Hearts, which is the program she's now the executive director of. She reached out to Embrace Grace and was a very active participant in that. Through all of that, she figured out what was the best thing for her and her child, and then turned her life completely around and is now running an amazing program, speaking about her life and the things that got her to where she was when she kind of hit bottom, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Definitely hit bottom. And you're right. I mean, I had no idea. I remember being terrified when I moved back here. I mean, I had nothing as a high school dropout, no education, got my GED because the federal prison made me, and just like, and now I have a baby in my belly. And what am I going to do? So I don't have to run out and find a man to depend on, that I could do something to support me and my son.
Which is what you had been doing, relying on men to support you and take care of you.
Right.
How many women out there do that?
Mm-hmm. Quite a few.
Yeah. So I would love if, Rebecca, if you just shared a little bit about, where things started for you, so that then we can get into your amazing program as well, Valiant Hearts, and talk about how that helps women for programs like Legacy, as well as any other women that might be listening out there.
Sure. So let's see. I mean, I guess I'll point out the fact that we're actually family.
We are.
And how are y'all related? Tina's my sister-in-law. She
Okay.
married into this greatness.
Okay.
So, but so rewind from 2012 when I moved back here and was facing all those problems. What led up to that moment? I was actually born in Dallas, but raised in Keller, and had a mostly normal childhood. Maybe like many of you guys, grew up going to church, Baptist church, and grew up knowing the right things to do and not to do the wrong things. And at the age of 5 was kind of that first moment in my life that I realized that maybe my life wasn't like everyone else's. And that was when my oldest brother, Brian, committed suicide. And that was this, really tough moment in my family's life. We tried to recover the best way that we could, which, played out in various ways. But I remember, just the extreme guilt I would feel when I would even mention his name. And, even as a young girl, I would realize that I wasn't supposed to talk about that, and I didn't know how to process it. My parents gave me a 5-year-old version of it, understandably, but that left me with a lot of questions and no outlet to talk about it. And so looking back, I kind of realized that sent me this message that we didn't talk about issues like that in our family, as a little girl. And so I began to just bottle things up and just not talk about stuff. And so I, went on and began playing. I, was kind of the cool kid in the in crowd, and, was a cheerleader and soccer player, and, life was pretty good. And at the age of 14, I went to a church lock-in right there off Brunswick off of Roof Snow in Northwestern Hills. And it was, where they lock the doors and everybody stays and sleeps at the bowling alley. Well, you really don't sleep. You just party all night. But anyways, so I knew this boy that lived close to the bowling alley, and I thought, well, he would, we kind of made this little plan that I would sneak out of the lock-in and go to his house and hang out. And, I thought he was cute, and I thought we would maybe kiss or something. I was 14 and very innocent at that time still. And so we did. We made this, I executed the plan, and I kind of snuck out of the bowling alley, and I went to his house, and he violently raped me at his house when I got there. And I had no idea what to do. I was like, what I did was I snuck back in the bowling alley, and I pretended like nothing happened, because I blamed myself for what I went through. I knew I had done something wrong. I had snuck out, and while I knew what happened to me, that wasn't, justification for what I did, but I also was extremely embarrassed, and I didn't even know how to talk about it. And so from that point, within the next year or so, I started coping with drugs to just kind of numb the pain and the shame that I was walking around carrying inside me, and it was just all bottled up. And so, but I started high school, and it still had kind of that good group of friends. And when I tried out for high school cheerleading, I didn't make it. And that kind of separated me from that group of friends. And that was another big hallmark moment for me, because all those good kids, now I was no longer forced to be around them all the time. And so I had to make new friends. And those new friends were the kind of friends that did drugs at school. And that was the crowd that I wound up falling into. And so my parents had these rules that if you live under our house, you go by our rules, like a lot of families do. And so as I started to rebel a little bit more, as most girls do at that age, and I'm already experimenting with drugs, I decided, hey, that was an easy problem to fix. So I moved out. At the age of 16, I moved out. And I moved over to Grapevine, which is about 2 cities away from Keller, and started using drugs a little bit more and started going to school a little bit less. And I had no idea, what I was going to do with my life. I was trying to keep everything together, but obviously I had to work more now to support myself. And my parents were terrified. Here they thought our baby girl is going to die like our son did. And so they threw a Hail Mary. Well, what they did is they decided they didn't know what to do with me, but they suspected I was using drugs, and they knew I wasn't attending school very much, and I was kind of dropping out due to lack of attendance. And so my brother was actually getting married at that time, and I was going to be a bridesmaid in his wedding. They told me, did I want to be a bridesmaid? And I said, yeah, that sounds great. So they came to pick me up one Saturday morning, and we were going to go to the specialty dress store in East Texas to get fitted for this bridesmaid dress. And so, I got drunk the night before and fell asleep in the back of their car that next morning, and wake up a couple hours later like, man, this is really far. How did they find this dress store? Kind of the cobwebs are starting to clear out of my head. And then I realized that we get to this facility and there's no windows, and now kind of there's an alarm bell going off in my head, like, what in the world is happening? And we walk inside this facility that has no windows, and there's all these girls lining the hallway. And now I'm really like, what in the heck is happening? And we go and sit in this office, and all these words start flying by me, and I start to grasp what's happening. My parents have signed over their rights to me and placed me in this institution called Holy Highway in East Texas. And man, I was blown away. I was so shocked.
How old were you?
I was 16.
16.
I would have never expected that. I felt betrayed, with a lie that they used to get me there. I felt abandoned. I felt rejected. I felt all kinds of terrible things that you'd never want your daughter to feel, that you'd never want to feel yourself. And so I kind of made an inner vow to myself that I would wind up working that program and breaking out the first chance I got. And that's exactly what I did. After about 6 months in the program, I was allowed to have a home visit. And so I had 3 days at my mom and dad's house, and I had previously made my case to them that I was willing to live by their under their roof and go by their rules if they would let me out of the program, and they said, no, you have to complete the program. And so that's when inside I just snapped and knew that I would do whatever I could to get out. And so, but the last night at my parents' house, I snuck my mom's phone and went to the bathroom and called some friends and said, hey, you got to come get me. I'll knock on this window at 1 a.m. and park around the corner so nobody sees your car. And they, sure enough, they did. 1 a.m. or whatever, I got the knock on the window, and I literally broke the blinds on my way out. And from that moment, I never looked back. I felt like my family was dead to me. I hated them as a child, as a child could, as a 17-year-old girl, right? I hated them for what they did to me. And I just started living with whoever I met that day from that point on. It's really hard to get like a linear timeline of, one stop to the next because I really don't remember. I started using drugs again. Obviously, I'm a high school dropout by this point, and eventually made my way slowly to Arlington from Keller, and wound up living with some drug dealers. And it wasn't long before the drug business got slow, and the other girl that was living there with me told me that we needed to do something to pull our own weight. We had already been robbing stores and stuff to get clothes for everyone, and apparently that wasn't enough anymore. And I'd already been arrested 2 times by this point as a child. And so she took me to this strip club in Dallas called Dreams off Industrial Boulevard. And I got hired at age 17. It was a 21 and up club. I had no ID. It was no problem. They didn't put me on stage because they knew I was a minor. And I just remember sitting on, 50, 60-year-old men's laps, just drinking shots of Hennessy just to make it through the night. I had no idea what I was doing. As good as she was as talking me into going, once we got there, she left me on my own. And I started to feel really used. I felt gross. I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like dancing for money. And so there was this cute guy that used to come in to the strip club, and he would play pool in the back. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll give this guy a try. And so I did. And then, unfortunately, the only question I remember asking him was if he had drugs. And he told me he did. And so I said, okay. And I literally just left the strip club with him, and I never saw those drug dealers again. And first day was great. He told me all of his dreams. He was an aspiring musician, and he just needed that studio time to get that money. We'd make that, that next hot single, and we'd all be rich and
Smooth
famous.
talker.
Yeah, right. Life would be great. We'd be rich and famous. And so we got high that first day and then fell asleep. And the second day we woke up, got high again. And later that evening, I would realize what his dreams would cost me in the form of my body and my integrity. And he told me to get in the car with the other 2 women, and they would show me the ropes. And I was like, okay. I mean, living that kind of lifestyle, you don't ask a lot of questions. Questions can get you killed. And so this guy was my whole world now. And I thought, well, we'll probably go rob a store or something, which is what I was used to. I mean, at this point, I'd been homeless. I'd, been living in poverty. I'd been stealing food in order to survive every day. So
you couldn't imagine worse.
Right, exactly. And so I got in the car with the other girls, and I found myself in the back seat of a car on Harry Hines Boulevard, being told exactly how I had to ask people if they wanted to have sex with me and exactly how much money I had to charge them. And it was like my entire world flipped upside down on top of me. It was like the Twilight Zone or something. I had no idea what to do, and I thought I could run, but here I am. I mean, Harry Hines is a scary place today, 2018 in the daytime, much less in 1999, to a girl that should have been sitting in a high school classroom in the middle of the night, And I thought, if I run, I'm going to get chopped up in little pieces, and no one will ever find my body. And I didn't want that to happen, and so I obeyed them, and I did exactly what they told me. And I stayed in that situation for the next couple months of my life. I got extremely suicidal. I was starved. I only had enough money to get like a candy bar and a Coke on the way out to work each night, and that would be sometimes all I had for food in an entire day. And we would have to work all night, and then I had to shower last, I had to eat last, I had to do everything last because I was the last one to come around. There was those 2 other women and 2 men, and we all lived in this 2-bedroom apartment off of 635 in Skillman, right behind Denny's in Dallas. And so I got really suicidal, and I thought I felt disgusting. Here I was being marched back and forth at these crummy motels off Harry Hines Boulevard, and what I was having to do, right? I don't want to get too graphic on your show, but, I was miserable, and I had no idea what to do. To me, suicide was a great option. It had worked for my brother, and I thought about it probably daily. I fantasized about committing suicide. And so I met this guy, though. And he seemed so amazing. He was standing in the back of a strip club parking lot, and we came up. He had a big dog with him, and we thought we would just pull up and talk to him and see if he was going to be a customer. And he saw me in the back seat of that car, and he told me to get out, that he wanted to see what I was working with, to get out and come around to the trunk of the car. And so I was like, okay, whatever, and got out, and he told me I was beautiful. He made me feel special. He told me he was going to give me his phone number, but not to give it to those other 2 girls. He didn't want them to have it. He only wanted me to have it. And I was pretty impressed. He wasn't buying me, and he made me feel special. It made me feel pretty at a time when I felt lower than dirt. I felt disgusting. And so I started sneaking around to payphones and calling him, and he was 20 years older than me. He was 37. I was still 17, and he was from California, and I had always dreamed about California. And he sometimes a girl would answer his phone, and he told me it was his secretary, and I thought, wow, this guy, like, he's doing something right,
Yeah.
you know? And so for me, I literally was weighing the two options of committing suicide or giving this guy a try. And I thought, well, I could always kill myself later. Might as well give this guy a try. Maybe this is the romantic love relationship that I've been longing for in my heart since I was a kid, you know? And so that, we wound up making a deal where we were going to meet at the Denny's. And so I ran with my trash bag full of clothes, ran away from my first trafficker thinking I was getting out, that I'd met my knight in shining armor. And unfortunately, I was just running into the arms of another trafficker. And that would turn into the next 10 years of my life. I stayed with that trafficker for the next 10 years out of extreme fear and shame and embarrassment and guilt and all the complex trauma that I was experiencing on a daily basis. It was very difficult. For me, I wasn't able to escape until the federal authorities finally became involved. And I was able at that moment, I wound up serving 13 months in federal prison because I was too scared to tell my trafficker. But then when he turned himself in on the same charge back in 2009 was when I knew I had my chance to run and start my life over and change my identity before he hunted me down and killed me like he always promised he would. And so I did. I ran, and I wish things got better immediately, but they didn't. It was really kind of like that was all I knew. I'd been arrested 10 times. I had a federal felony, only got my GED because the federal prison made me, no work experience, even though my trafficker always had multiple businesses, but what was I going to do? Use him as a reference? Like,
Right.
No, I don't think so.
Right. I have business skills. They're just, different.
Right.
Right.
So I was like, what am I going to do? All I knew was how to continue doing what I was doing, and so I stayed in. I thought, well, all this millions of dollars have passed through my hands. Why not? I could do it for myself and girl power, and it'll be great. But the daily realities of what it's like to work in prostitution or to be a dancer are miserable. I can't tell you how many fist fights I've been in with grown men, how many times I've run out of rooms with my clothes in my hands trying to get dressed in the stairwell while I hear a guy screaming because I just maced him in his eyeballs because he was trying to rape me, or how many times I found guns in hotel rooms, how many women I know that have been murdered by customers, right? It is a miserable experience. It is a miserable life. There's nothing glamorous about it at all. And so I was still hitting every day that same level of frustration, and now I didn't have someone breathing down my neck and beating me and forcing me to do it, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I wound up just kind of floundering. I started using drugs again. I got addicted to drugs I'd never even tried before, and eventually I landed in somewhat of a more solid relationship. It was a little bit less dysfunctional, still dysfunctional, and I was able to transition, get myself clean, get out of the life, and then about a year later is when I found out I was pregnant. And man, those of you that are parents, you will do stuff for your kids that you would never do for yourself. And it was like for the first time I had this burden from the Holy Spirit to start praying. I thought if I walked into a church at this point, I would spontaneously combust. Like, seriously. Just sin. Right.
I know that feeling.
Yes.
I resonate with that feeling. Yes. I think I walked into her office with that feeling. I'm going to explode in here. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I started praying, and I thought, God, this is not the environment that I want to raise a baby in. I knew better. I didn't want to raise a baby in that environment, but I didn't know what to do. He was the only one that worked, and I didn't have any money. And so I called my family, and I said, hey, I'm pregnant. I don't want to raise a baby, with the father. And, can you guys help me? And they said, if you can get here, you can live with us for free. And so I knew I had that promise to go on. And so a couple months later, that was around Thanksgiving time, well, maybe October time. A couple months later, I wound up getting in an argument with my son's father, and I got enough money from him to rent a U-Haul and drive straight through, 23 hours straight through from Las Vegas to Texas. And I was 4 months pregnant by that time, about 4 months pregnant. And I had no idea what I was coming back to. It was really hard moving back into my mom and dad's house, right? It's a hard decision after not being there since I was 15 years old. And so, but I did. And I actually went to the house, and I took about a 2-hour nap after driving that many hours. And my sister came in the house, and she said, hey, I'm about to go to church. Do you want to go to church with me? And I was like, okay, God, you got me here. I can't wait. I had this hopeful expectancy of what God was going to do. And I didn't grow up, having a relationship with Jesus. I grew up it was rules. You just had to follow all these rules. And if you were good enough, then you make it into heaven. And so I didn't know this other side of Jesus that wants a personal relationship with us, and that it's not about rules, that, and so.
He loves you either way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unconditionally.
Yes, yes. And he sees our end from our beginning. He sees us as we'll be in heaven. He doesn't see us as our mistakes, know? And so anyways, I go to Gateway, which is still my home church today.
I heard that's a great church.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I heard a lot about that church.
It's big for some people, but it
Yeah.
also, with it being big, they have a lot of resources, which is nice to help their members. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I went to Gateway and got really moved, and I almost went to this guy for prayer afterwards, and I went to this woman instead, and it was Pastor Samantha Golden, and she's a great friend of mine today, and she gave me this huge hug. Here I was, 4 months pregnant, no ring on my finger, thought I would be judged, thought I would be shunned, like the version of church I grew up in, and instead I was embraced, and I was loved, and Embrace Grace literally started 2 days after I moved here. So she gave me this huge hug, and she's a pastor over single parent ministry, which is, I just happened to walk up to her, like it was just a God thing.
This was a God thing, yeah.
Absolutely.
It just was meant to be.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so since then, I mean, life has never been the same. Yeah, since for me, incorporating God in my journey was the only way I've been able to find true healing. I tried to do it on my own, and I sucked at it.
Try to fill it with drugs, alcohol. I mean, everything, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, I think something that's really important with your journey compared to many other people is they don't have that family support, or they don't have a father, the baby, and friends that support them, and they think they're going to do it all on their own.
It takes a village.
It does, not just to raise a child, but when you're in a hard place to begin with, and you yourself are not functioning, how are you going to take care of a child?
Yeah.
So that was something that was really great about what you had available to you, is not only did you have all these resources that you had found for yourself, but you had family that really gathered around you and said, you know what, if this is what you're going to do and you're going to try to really make it work, then we're all going to support you.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be here. There would be no way I could have done this by myself. There's just no way. I often, when I train law enforcement across the country, almost at the end of every presentation, after sharing the gruesome details, very, very intimate details of things I've experienced, I tell them that in all that, I consider myself lucky because I did have a family that I could have called. I just chose not to.
Right.
And what about all those women out there that don't? They
Right.
have no one safe in their lives.
Something else that really struck me that I wanted to bring up real quickly is, talking about you being trafficked. And I know you and I have talked about this a little bit. As someone that's being trafficked, if you get pregnant, what happens to you?
Most often it's a forced abortion. One of the women that was with my same trafficker, I think she had like 5 abortions during her time there. She was there like 25 years.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and that's very common.
Is it like Stockholm Syndrome? I mean, do you know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
it just the mental?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we
You
call
just
it.
can't get away?
What we call it is trauma bonds.
Trauma
and so
bonds.
and
Okay,
it's,
yeah.
I mean, that's Stockholm Syndrome. It's
Yeah.
the same thing that happens to Army veterans or to, military veterans. And, the thing is, though, it's not only the bond between trafficker and victim. There's also lateral bonds. Sometimes there's bonds to children that are in the household. Sometimes there's bonds. I had what they were called my sisters, but in the game they're called wife-in-laws, but it's women that are being trafficked by the same man. And I was more bonded to them than I was to him. It was harder for me when I finally ran because I knew everything I was leaving on their shoulders. So it was like, it wasn't only that trauma bond, right? There's other trauma bonds to consider, but that's exactly it. And especially, you go through stuff like that together and you think that it kind of separates you from the rest of the world. And you feel like you don't belong to the normal world anymore. And like nobody else would ever relate to you or
Right.
understand
And you feel like you relate to the ones that you're staying with.
Exactly.
You're right.
Exactly.
I understand that.
So yeah, since that time, like Tina mentioned, Valiant Hearts is one of the first places I walked to for healing, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about that later. But then I began speaking out and sharing my story. Since that time, I've become a nationally recognized survivor leader in the anti-trafficking movement. Trained tens of thousands of law enforcement and social workers across the country on this issue.
Airlines.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Airlines, because
Yeah.
airlines, I mean, think about it. When
They
there's
see
big,
so
Yes.
much.
well, when there's a big event like the Super Bowl going on, those
Um,
women are moved back and forth
Okay,
to go take care of those
Yeah.
men that are going to the games.
So we spoke on the phone today, and that's what she found out from working in the hospital, was that during football season is one of the highest.
Can't remember where I heard. It might have been a social worker. I cannot recall, but I work psychiatry. So just on the conversation about that, this was a couple years ago when she said the biggest time for sex trafficking is when we have Cowboy games here with the Dallas Cowboys. And I was just kind of blown away. I really couldn't believe it. She said that's the biggest time that's going on.
Well, and not only that, I mean, any conference, I mean, anywhere there's
yeah.
traveling men, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the supply follows the demand. So wherever
Right.
there's money, right, traffickers are going
Yeah.
to bring victims there.
Now, this might seem like a little silly question, but what does sex trafficking really mean? Okay, like, is it prostitution? Is it you've found somebody that it's like a pimp? Is it everything involved? I mean, because when I was homeless, I knew girls that got into the business of they ran a Backpage ad, and they stayed in a hotel room and they ran a business, and they chose to do that. They were their own boss, pretty much. I'm confused because people say sex trafficking and then people think of that movie Taken.
Oh, Lord.
You know what I mean?
Don't say it.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's what most people think of, and that's a very sensationalized image of what trafficking is, and a lot of what I do is I train media on, what images to use too, because you invariably see like the little white girl with the dirty, dark hands on her shoulders, or someone being kept in a dog crate, or in chains, and while that does happen, it's a very rare exception, right? Most of the time, what a trafficker looks like, a trafficker and a pimp are synonyms; they're the exact same thing. So there is no
Okay.
difference. Now, while prostitution, trafficking, porn, dancing, those are all different issues, but they're all
The same.
woven together.
Okay.
Right. They all feed each other. They're inextricably linked. If you want me, I can read you the federal definition of human trafficking. But basically, so trafficking of a child is different. You don't have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. The federal government has identified that as a severe form of trafficking. Sex trafficking is a severe form of trafficking as well. When you look at trafficking, really sex trafficking is like 20% of the pie. The other 80% is labor trafficking. It's happening way more. It's way more pervasive in every country in our world today. So sex trafficking is 20% of that. And of that, there's different kinds, right? You have pimp-controlled trafficking. You have gang trafficking. You have familial trafficking. You have survival trafficking. Right, so those are the four most common in America, right? So mine was pimp controlled, right? And that's a very common model where it's the boyfriend that comes alongside you that seems great, and then all of a sudden he gets his hooks in you, and then it's too late, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how to get out from that point, right? Familial trafficking looks very different. The age is usually much younger. That's the cases that you see on the news, that it's the mom sells their baby for drugs, right? Which unfortunately happens, and it's extremely sad, right? Those are those families that the kids grow up, and who do they have to go to, right? Survival trafficking, that's a teenager like me that I was living out on the streets and I'm trading sex in order for a safe place to stay or for a meal. That's survival trafficking. So generally there is three parties to trafficking. One is the trafficker or the seller, right? Then there's the victim, and then there's the buyer. So in survival trafficking, there's only two parties, right? They've actually successfully prosecuted Johns, which are customers that have bought children for survival sex trafficking. They've prosecuted them as traffickers, which has been a huge improvement in our state. And then you have gang control trafficking, which the girls, are generally girls. Now, and I'm going to be gender normative here, and I'm going to call most victims girls because that's the truth. But there are definitely male victims out there as well.
Yes.
Now, when you say children, do you mean under, like, what age?
18. The federal government
Under 18?
is
Okay.
18.
Well, I was reading up on some things, and I guess is the average age 13 to be?
Of entry. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have over 400 underage children in, like, the Dallas area?
Yeah, it comes from a UT study. That was a really good study they did. But yeah, they guesstimate 400 children on the streets of Dallas every night. And the unfortunate thing, we had a huge win in the trafficking community, in the anti-trafficking community. FOSTA SESTA recently passing. I don't know if you guys heard of that or you know what it is, but it allows people to actually go after online websites like Backpage. Is what shut Backpage down. The passing of this law, but the market's going to shift, right? And so those of us that are professionals in this movement have been waiting to see, well, where's the market going? And we do outreaches to all the strip clubs every quarterly as an organization, Valiant Hearts does. And what they noticed the last time they were out was the women were out on Harry Hines again, being sold. They're out there in bras and panties and bikinis, walking the track. And so that might make another resurgence, right? If the online vendors, if you will, have been shut down, it's going to move somewhere else.
So what happens to these women when they themselves are like you've said many times, just fed up. They feel like low lives, or they feel helpless. They feel disgusted, and they want to get out. What would happen if they tried to leave?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, many have been murdered, right? Many have been murdered. It takes a national average is it takes 7 times before you run and you finally stay away. So for me, it took 3. For the other 2 women that escaped my same trafficker, it took them 3 as well. And so, what happens on those escape attempts? I mean, I had one time I was trying to leave, and my trafficker flew up to California and San Francisco, and he found a knife in the kitchen, and he heard someone call to check on me, and so he knew I had told someone that he was coming, and he came and held a knife to my throat. I thought I was going to die. I thought he was going to murder me right there in that room. Right? So those are the kinds of situations. But what I like to also reframe is like, people don't understand. They think, well, why didn't, I get that question a lot. Well, why didn't you just leave? Right? Mm-hmm. Right. Well, the obvious answer is I did. I'm here today. Right. Mm-hmm. But if you're asking why didn't I leave sooner? Well, that answer would be, I mean, I did that too. I tried. Right. But the daily, I had to work most often 20 hours a day. Right. I mean, I was doing double shifts. I was working all day, and I was being labor trafficked in our businesses all day, and then I was being sex trafficked at night. And our trafficker would even do things like stick his hand in our mouth while we were sleeping, or he would slap us out of our sleep. Have you ever been slapped to become awake? Like, it sucks. It's terrifying. Right. So we were constantly on no sleep. Right, constantly being moved across the country.
And you can't function.
Exactly.
You just can't. You can't even think anymore.
So thinking through an exit plan, like honestly, can you guess what my main thought every day was? How do I not get beat today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do I do to make him happy so that he doesn't beat me today when I get home? And that's my main thought, not running away, because that's terrifying even to think about.
Much like domestic violence victims, they think that same thing. So, with Legacy, we've had a couple women that have come to us that have been trafficked in some way or another, whether or not it was survival trafficking or sexual trafficking, whichever it was. And, I think they were, from what I'm hearing you say, lucky that they had the ability to come to us and actually either do an adoption, or if they didn't do an adoption, they parented. They did not get forced into an abortion because it was too late. And it sounds like for them, they were probably one of the lucky ones that got that ability to make a choice.
Well, it depends, because if they're still with trafficker and now they have a kid, that kid is now a pawn. And that happens all the time. Traffickers will intentionally impregnate their victims, so now they have something else to control them with, because, right, what are you going to do, run and leave your kid? I know a survivor leader, Leah Rogers, amazing survivor sister of mine out of Arizona. She actually served 18 months in federal prison. She wouldn't work with the investigators because he had her son. She had a 2-year-old son that they didn't even think to ask about. Did she have any other kids? And he was controlling her son, so there was no way she was going to tell on him. She was facing like 40 federal charges, and she was going to take it all just to keep her son safe. So her family wound up getting the son away, and then she was able to work with investigators, and she's out and free now. But so it could be luck, or it could be a destinace.
Wow. So from your perspective, if someone knows of somebody in that situation, what would you tell them to do?
One of the hardest things for victims to do is self-identify as victims. And this is what I train law enforcement on all the time.
You told us this as well, because we have this problem with people who come to us like that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, you can't just walk up and say, you're a victim, right? Because that's not going to go over well.
And it didn't.
You're gonna instantly alienate them and lose them, and they're probably not going to listen to you. For me, it took me 2 full years from the time I got out until I finally didn't blame myself for my own victimization. Till I finally was able to look back on that 17-year-old girl and have compassion on myself. And you know what I had to do? I had to pretend like it was someone else's daughter, because I didn't have compassion on myself. I blamed myself. I knew I had made bad choices. Now, I also know I didn't deserve that, but there's so much wrapped up in the game, if you will, of what it's called. There's so much wrapped around choosing up. There's a choosing fee. There's all this stuff to make you feel like somehow you have a choice in this. But in reality, you don't, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, the light bulb question was when my best friend, Rebecca Bender, who's a survivor leader as well, she asked me, she was like, Becca, what would he have done if you said no, you didn't want to go to work? And I just started laughing, because that thought was ludicrous. Like, I could never say I didn't want to go to work. And I worked every birthday, every holiday. I mean, I remember working 9/11.
So every day.
Exactly.
You didn't have a day off.
No, 20 hours a day most often, like I said. And so, but it was that light bulb moment, because it was like, oh, what choices did I really have? And then I started looking back at, at the way he molded all of us. I mean, our hair color, the way I drove, the way I washed myself. I mean, literally everything in my life he controlled. But it was just that through the help of her, I was able to see, oh, okay, wait a minute. That wasn't my choice. I never woke up one day and said I want to be a prostitute. I never woke up and said I want to take my clothes off for money, And
That wasn't your lifelong goal.
exactly. And it's nobody's, right?
Right.
It's nobody's.
Wow. So I want to get back a little bit to your pregnancy, which kind of saved you.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, it really did change your whole life and got you to where you are today. And, Tiffany has 2 children that are biological children. One that's older, how old is she now?
She's 11, going
Yeah.
on 21.
Just started
Yeah.
sixth
She
grade?
just started 6th grade today.
Yeah. And after that, your life kind of went downhill
Yeah.
for various reasons and had another pregnancy, and you chose adoption. Rebecca, you were able to take control of family and support, and you chose to parent. And so I want to ask each of you a question. So Tiffany, when you think about your decision to choose adoption for your child, what are your most proud moments and happy moments about that?
Oh, well. Nothing beats the moment whenever I was in the delivery room and I saw Hadley's mom hold her for the first time. Like, she held her, she cut her cord. When that moment happened and I got to see, like, you don't get to, and I've said this a million times, but you don't get to watch yourself have a baby. Like, you don't have a mirror in front of you, right? So you don't get to see yourself become a mom. But at the moment that she cut Hadley's cord and she held her, I got to see her become a mom. I got to see her feel with all of those crazy emotions of love and fear and unconditional love, and just love that baby. Like a glow went around her. And that moment was worth every night that I was hungry, every night that I walked around, every night that I was in a game room. It was worth every minute of all of it. It was made being homeless worth it. Now, it would be a whole nother year that I chose to live that lifestyle, but
Right.
Until I changed. But yeah, she was a miracle, and it was worth every minute of it. Because I knew in my heart the whole time I was pregnant, I was carrying her for somebody else. I mean, she was my child, but I wasn't going to bring her up in that kind of world.
Right.
So, yeah, that was the proudest moment, was to watch Liz become a mom. That was the coolest.
And that's awesome. I mean, being able to see
Yeah.
that for somebody else, you're right. I mean, in our job, we get to see it quite often, luckily, but most people don't get to see other people's deliveries, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But for Rebecca, for you, what would you say, having made the choice to have your son and raise him, what have been your happiest and most proud moments?
Ooh, man. I remember one day I was driving in the car and I just kind of had this realization. I didn't even have my son Isaiah with me, but I just had this realization, like, of all these difficult decisions I've had to make in life, and starting over at age 30 with literally, really even less than nothing if you count debt.
Right.
A lot of debt.
There you go.
So, but I just had this realization as I was driving that one day my son is going to be extremely proud of his mommy, because I chose to make a really hard decision to make a new life for me and him so that he could grow up in a healthy, loving, safe environment, not in a criminal lifestyle,
Yeah.
And so that was a shining moment for me as a mom. It just made me cry, because it was just like, that's who I did it for,
Yeah.
that one day he would be proud of mommy, and he'll know all the things mommy has gone through, and he'll look at me and be proud of me for the person that I've decided to become.
That's awesome. So
Well,
what I hear that's
yeah.
really cool in both of your happy and most proud moments is that you're both proud basically of decisions that were made. I mean, yours was getting to see someone else become a mom to your
Well, I mean,
child.
I was worried about, you worry about making that decision. Am I making the right decision? And at that very second, I knew that I had done the right thing.
So both of you, I mean, like, it's amazing. You had these traumatic pasts that you overcame and made what was the best option for your child.
Yeah.
You were able to use that as a catalyst to change. You used it as an option to let somebody else do something for your child because that was the right thing
Right.
for your circumstances.
Right.
That's
And
awesome.
it
there
also
is happiness.
it also gave me the willpower and the fire to want to change. It just took me a little bit longer to become the mom that I need to be for Trinity.
Right.
which has then led to me being the bonus mom to 2 other kiddos
Yep.
too. So now I have 3 kiddos that I'm raising, and I'm blessed.
And look at what you're doing now.
I know,
This
right,
is
girl?
Awesome.
Like, this is crazy from the first time you met me, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little different.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, my proudest moment now would be like today, getting her ready for school. And
I know, I couldn't believe when
and
you
being
told me that.
there to take pictures and, take her school shopping. And I remember I was just thinking today, like, everybody would post their back to school pics on Facebook, of their kids. And when I was homeless, I hated today. I wouldn't even turn on my phone. Like, I hated it. Now, it's the coolest thing to come back and to admit that I was messed up. For her to be in 6th grade, she's not dumb. You know what I mean? Mom was messed up. And for her to see me change and to be somebody and a positive figure into the community, yeah, it was worth it all.
What's amazing to me, though, is I can still remember when we were working with you, and you would show us pictures of her and you on Facebook, and the pride that you had in her, and the fact that you kept saying, I don't want her to see me like this. She's not going. I will not put myself in her life while I'm like this because I don't want her again.
Well, I had
You were
seen
making
a lot
choice
of
for your
women
child.
that did that. They were floating in it and out of their kids' lives, and it was like, that's not the right thing to do. They're not dolls. You can't play with them for a second and then put them back on the shelf and not be around for a while.
No.
That's just I wasn't going to do that. I'd rather just be completely absent.
And that's a hard thing to do, but what a strong choice that was for your child because you really put her interests ahead of your own.
Yeah, I really think it might. I mean, she's still naive to some things. She's
So
still,
she's still young.
right. But I mean, to where if I hadn't been absent and she had seen that stuff, she would have those street smarts and she would be already grown. Whereas
true.
she still has that innocence in her at 11. So that I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful for her father for keeping her away and protected and did what he needed to do while I was messed up. So yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
Crazy, huh?
So I want to flip it now. For you, Tiffany, what was the most difficult thing for you with regards to choosing adoption for your child? What's been your biggest struggle with choosing adoption?
Oh, there was always that fear of is she gonna hate me? Is she gonna feel abandoned? I didn't want to, and I say this jokingly, but I didn't want a Dr. Phil phone call of my child. You know what? I'm trying to. I mean, I'm just being real. Like I didn't want that because I didn't want her
that's
to
a big
feel that
fear of most
abandonment.
moms,
And
yeah.
a lot of moms, they feel that way. But I say that hell, I had abandoned Trinity. You know what I mean? So I already had to deal with that and come back and fix that. And so yeah, that's been the hardest part. But now that it's an open adoption,
Yeah.
it's a modern adoption.
It is.
I talked to Liz today. We share pictures. It's like, look at my crew. Look at my crew. What are you doing today? You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And so I know that she's not wondering. I know that she knows that I did the best for her, and I'm just her Tiffany.
And that's what's amazing about modern adoption is that we have that ability to connect families and birth parents and make them have the ability to have those relationships that they desire so that those questions that are going to be asked over the years are just easy to answer and there's not that secrecy to it.
There's not that secrecy.
Fantasy of creating a story that's not true.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing that about the difficult times for you because I know that is really difficult for many moms that
Yeah.
choose adoption. But there's also difficulties for people who choose to have kids. And, I know there's moms out there right now listening that are going, I'm pregnant and I don't have any support or anything, but what do I do? And can I do this on my own? Talk a little bit about, Rebecca, your challenges as a mom, and not only as a mom, but as a single mom. What are some of those challenges that you face that you'd want other moms to know about as well?
Yeah, I actually just posted on Instagram yesterday about the single mom struggle. I mean, it's hard, In the short time that I've been here, the 6.5 years, I got my bachelor's degree. I'm about to get a dual master's degree. I'll get my first master's this December.
Wait. I know,
this
right?
is coming out of the same person that just said I got my GED because the feds made
Yes,
me.
girl.
I told you.
Well, I love that.
She is amazing.
The feds made me get a GED, but I did all this other on my own. That's what's up.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so, but I mean, being able to go back to school, I mean, having jobs, like, especially now, working a full-time job, plus I'm a consultant with the National Criminal Justice Training Center, traveling the country. I mean, it is hard. There's
How do you
no
do it?
way.
Wait a minute. Like, do you just have wings on your back and you just fly around? I'm just curious. Did you pack your kid up with you? Because
My helicopter's on the roof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Lucky
Go for it,
lucky
Ryder.
for her, I know that she has awesome family support. Without
Yes.
that, I mean, I don't know how you would do it. I don't know how
way.
you would be able to do your consultant stuff where you travel. I don't know how you would be able to work a full-time job, get him to school, get him to activities.
Do night
There's
classes at school.
Yeah, there's just no way.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of difficult moments, to be honest. I mean, especially not knowing, not being underemployed for so long. It took me a long time even to be able to get a job with all the challenges, the hurdles that I had to overcome. And so,
I mean, if I ever hear somebody say I have a background and I can't get a job, I'm going to be like, you need to talk to Rebecca.
Good point.
She just made it happen. With her federal
Right.
G. I'm sorry, girl. That's a freaking amazing story.
It really is. It is.
That is inspiring.
thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it's been one hard decision after another. Like, when I moved here, I remember thinking, what am I doing? Why am I here? And how am I ever going to make it? I mean, I didn't even know if I could finish one class at college, but I knew I had to do something because now I had someone else to care for. And that was one thing that I wasn't going to, shortchange, right? Like, this is my life now, and I'm finally taking it in control of my own hands. So there's been a lot of difficult moments. I mean, especially, you come home. I mean, and on top of that, right, healing from more than a decade of trauma.
Right.
Let's just throw that in the mix.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
While trying to help other people who are going through those things in your day-to-day job.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's therapy, though? Helping others
Oh,
that
for
are going
sure.
through it?
Oh, for sure. It's very selfish. I mean, I can't even lie.
No,
Like,
I know. I
we get it.
resonate with that.
I mean, it honestly, like, otherwise, it's just hell I survived, right? If I don't use it to help other people, then if and some survivors do that. They decided that was a closed chapter in their life and they're never going to look at it or talk about it. But for me, like, if I can make one person not feel ashamed about what they've experienced, or if I can prevent one victim from going through what I went through or be able to get out earlier, then it's worth it to
Or
me.
just to show
Yeah.
them that, hey, guess what? You can wake up tomorrow and you can change.
Or you can get a master's degree from GED.
Federal GED, you can turn around and get a master's
That's
degree.
right.
Hey.
But on a serious note, like
Yeah.
and I have a friend who just found out she's pregnant, but she's one of my friends who is from that other life, right? Who I keep tabs of her, but I can't see her. I can't talk to her. I can't go have lunch with her because she's not eating. And I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't do certain things with
Yeah.
her. And I pray about her, and I pray for her, and I pray for her. And she messaged me the other day that she's pregnant.
Wow, so that's a
so
good
here's
transition
what's
here.
up.
Yeah, so
And I'm like,
What do you say?
She knows that I know what to do. She knows because she saw me every day when I was pregnant on the street. She
Yeah.
came to the hospital when I had Hadley, in the middle of the night. And here she is going through the same thing. And it's like, what are you going to do? You know what choices I had to make. What are you going to do? I'm here to help you with whatever choice. I respect whatever choice you want to choose. But goodness sakes, this has happened for a reason.
yeah, absolutely.
And she
So
should
we are
seek
working-
wise counsel.
We are seeking, I'm getting her, I check on her every few days because I don't want to bombard her or make her feel like a victim. I don't want to piss her off.
Yeah, well, I think the best
Because
thing.
that can happen, and then
best
she'll
thing, yeah.
disappear. So I just keep checking in on her, and we've got 9 months. She found out a little sooner than I did, and so I'm going to help her with whatever I can. And you can better believe I'm sending your way as soon as I.
Well, we'll be ready
Because
to talk
I've
to her,
told
just like
her,
we were with any
I
woman
told
that
her,
comes through.
if you choose to keep that baby, Legacy's going to help you with whatever avenue you need. Like, whatever you need for that baby. If you need housing because you need to get out of this lifestyle, they're going to help you with that. They're going to help you with food stamps. They're going to help you find the services that you need to find. They're going to help you find educational services because the girl is so smart. It's like, God.
So she just somehow got lost too.
She got lost too. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that happens to so many more women than people are willing to admit. I want to go
I
back.
think at first they get lost and then they're hiding.
Yeah, and see, I think that's the thing that I want to go back to is the whole family thing, because so many people leave home because of something that happens in their family. And there's an issue that happens that causes discord, and then there's something else that happens down the road where they really need help, but they can't get the help because they've burnt that bridge. But then, like, what we see happens a lot is this girl's pregnant. She comes and she's working with us. She's learning about her options. And she says, you know what, I think I want to do adoption. I think it is the right thing for my child. And then she calls her family. And what does the family say who hasn't seen her for 5, 10, 15 years? You've got to keep that baby. That's your blood. You've got to keep that baby. But I don't think they understand the amount of support. And that's, Rebecca, I want you to be able to talk a little bit more about, just how much support. It wasn't just, oh, come over here for a day or two.
Yeah.
It was, you lived with
Yeah.
your mom and dad for,
Years.
yeah.
I think it's 4 years.
Babysat Isaiah. They still babysit Isaiah.
Yeah.
It's a day-to-day thing that family has to be committed to. And what we see happens a lot is these poor women get families saying, don't do adoption. Well, we're going to do this with you.
And then they
the
end up taking their
honeymoon-
baby away.
No, then the honeymoon period goes away, and this new baby, the newness is worn off, and guess what? Now it's your responsibility, and you've got no help.
Yeah.
And so now you're alone again. You've been traumatized again because you went to your family and asked for help. They've told you they're going to give it to you, but they really only do it for a few days.
Yeah, it took me, I lived there, it had to be 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
And still, even to this day, our grandma passed away last year. But, at her funeral, I never really had a relationship with her, unfortunately. But at her funeral, it was like I mourned the idea of, the loss of having, it was my last grandparent living. But when I stood up and I said some words, it was so warming to me to know, like, how much my mom loves my son. And my son has a completely different experience with his grandparents.
He does. It's awesome.
His G-Paw, he takes him to the park. They go and do all kind of stuff together. And, I would not be the mom that I am if I wasn't living in my mom and dad's house. And they're healthy, right? A healthy
Right.
family. If I wasn't living in their house and seeing what my mom would do. You guys, I'm sorry, there is nothing natural about motherhood. Even learning how to breastfeed, it's not intuitive. You don't just figure it out. You have to learn this stuff.
You have to seek some wise counsel.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Especially with the breastfeeding.
And even then, it doesn't always work. Come
No,
on,
it doesn't.
Be honest,
You
because
can
there's going to be somebody out there that
seek so
hears you
many
and goes, okay.
lactation nurses, and it still doesn't work.
No, well, they sent this girl in to me, and God bless her. She looked like she was 12 years old. I'm like, girl, you know nothing about breastfeeding.
Do you have any yet?
You have a training bra on. That's not even fair. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and say it. Yeah. Oh, this has been fun. This has been fun, but I have to give a shout out to our sponsors, Legacy Adoption and Family Toyota of Burleson. We do have to take a commercial break, so we'll be right back, guys.
50% of all pregnancies in the United States are unplanned. If you are experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, you might be feeling happy, yet scared, and questions might be racing through your mind. Who should I tell? What will my family think? How am I going to afford this? What is the father going to say? Trust me, I've been there too. Take a deep breath and listen to me say that this is not the end of the world. No matter what circumstances have led you to this moment, they do not define your future. Although you might be feeling out of control, there are many paths you can take from here. You can choose to parent, abort, or place your child for adoption. Understand that none of those options are the easy, but how you choose to handle this pregnancy will affect the rest of your life. I chose adoption because it was the best option for me and my child. If you would like to talk with someone about all of your options, or if you have a loved one facing this situation, please contact Legacy Adoption Services at 817-899-5000 or visit their website at legacyadoptions.com. All of the Legacy services are free and confidential. Remember, many have walked this path before, and you are not alone.
Moon Tower Pizza Bar, the newest hotspot in Old Town Burleson. Come join us tonight for pizza and drinks. We offer a large patio to enjoy our beautiful summer nights, a family-friendly atmosphere, and the Guinness World Record-holding pizza, The Bus. Check out our Facebook Moon Tower Pizza Bar for upcoming events, and join us at 137 South Wilson, Burleson, Texas.
Accelerated Graphics and Science, 101 East Renfro, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, can handle all of your graphic needs. Need a banner or promotional products for your business? They got you covered. T-shirts and caps for your group. All you need to figure out is if you want them screen printed or embroidered. How about some slick graphics on that hot ride to make you stand out from the crowd? Accelerated Graphics and Science can handle anything you throw at them. Located at 101 East Renfro Street, Suite C in Burleson, Texas, go in and see them. Call them at 817-991-0523 or reach them on the web at www.acceleratedgraphics.net. They are loud and proud and want to serve you. Accelerated Graphics.
Owens Furniture has the goal of bringing quality wood furniture to people that wanted great furniture, from rustic to traditional and even modern. At Owens, we want you to find exactly what you are looking for. You have great taste and know what you want. We look for great quality for a great price, the biggest bang for your buck. We want our customers to come in each week and see something new. Come shop with us and find what you've been looking for at 1301 West Henderson Street in Cleburne.
We are back on Empowered to Speak with Tiffany Cooch
And Julie Bransom.
and the amazing Tina Dean.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Rebecca.
And Rebecca. From Violet. Look, I messed it up. Go ahead. Thank it. Go ahead. Say it.
Valiant Hearts.
Thank you.
She
There
can't do
you
it.
go.
Oh,
Can't
she's
say it
it's just
right.
a block. She just can't
We've
say
been
it.
practicing all day.
You have, not me. Let's get that straight.
Hey, look, listen, Gail.
Okay, I know, right? Thank you. I'm Gail.
I'm Oprah.
She's Oprah.
We pretend like we're Oprah
Yes,
and Gail
we do.
sometimes. Okay, so we're
Silly.
back from commercial break. You had some questions, some more adoption questions?
Yeah, I have just a couple of things that before Rebecca goes and talks about her amazing program that I want to ask both of y'all or any of y'all about so that we can help maybe some viewers out there who either have a family member or they themselves are pregnant right now and are really trying to decide what to do. So if you had somebody come up to you that was in a situation where they're pregnant, they are not in a great environment, their living situation is not wonderful, they really don't know what to do with raising this child. They think they might want to try it because, of course, you can try parenting, right? We can try parenting, and that child's still going to be there, but who knows what environment it's going to be and who knows if CPS is going to be involved. But if you were to have someone come to you with that, both of your circumstances, you could probably speak to this, and they were like, what should I do? Did you guys have any advice for me? Would you have anything from your own experiences to be able to say to that person?
Yeah. I'd go pick them up and take them away. I mean, really. Because they need to be educated on every option. Mm-hmm. And even if they choose to try it out, they still need to be supported. And, even if let's say they try it out and then they choose, I can't do this. Educate them on the safe way to make another choice besides being one of those moms that ends up giving up and leaving their baby in the dumpster. Or, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's when you have that situation. You know what I mean? Yeah. Somebody gave it a try and it didn't work and then they end up losing it.
And thank you for saying that because we get moms as well that come to us with those situations. We have one right now that we're working with that has a 3-year-old that she's finally been able to say, you know what, I don't think I'm doing the right thing for my child. This isn't about her. It's my child needs more than what I can provide.
And to me, that's really, really brave
It is.
of a
It
woman
is.
to be able to acknowledge that it's not for them. Because being a mom is not for everybody. And I've met women and I've known women that it's just not, they have kids, it's just, maybe they don't know how, maybe for whatever reason. And I know it's not an excuse, but I can't be mad and hate them because they just don't have it in them to be a mother.
And maybe they
Every
don't have
one of
that
us are made,
support.
some of us are made to have babies, right? But some of us are not made to be mothers. And, you know, just to be there and to love them through it, the whole thing,
Right.
you know?
And I think seeking wise counsel, because if they go to a pastor, if they go to their doctor even, it might be a doctor's office that they're at, and it's a pediatrician, and they're like, I am at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I'm doing my child right.
What are they going to do? What's that pediatrician going to do?
Well,
when
hopefully they're going to hear this, and they're going to say, you know what? Why don't we find you an agency that you can talk to, because an adoption is still possible.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we've had several this year that are not infants, that moms have finally been able to get information and educated to be able to say, hey, I need help. Can you educate me? And not all of them have placed for adoption. We've got them connected with other resources, but some have.
I think when you find yourself in situations like that, you wind up making decisions based on fear.
Yes,
Right? You're
yeah.
afraid you're going to be judged. You're afraid people are going to look at you like, oh, you gave your baby up. You didn't even try to parent or whatever, right? People can,
Yeah.
right, throw salt on anything. But I think, you know, seeking that wise counsel, like telling, you know, first of all, you know, being excited with the person, right? Being there, being empathetic to what they're going through, hearing them out, and then encouraging them to seek that wise counsel so they're making decisions based on knowledge, right? Not based on fear. That would definitely be what I would try to do for sure.
And you know, when we're in fear, when you're talking about this, when we're in a fear condition, we're in that fight or flight condition. And we're not thinking in our rational mind. And something that I've recently read that just for anybody to know out there, if you're ever in that kind of a situation or you're with somebody that's in that situation, to get someone back in a rational mind, you have them do simple math problems. Have them go, what's 1 + 1? 2. Okay, what's 2 + 2? 4. What's 4 + 4? 8. Once they start doing those simple math problems, it calms their brain back down into a way that they
like
can
it goes
start
back to a
thinking.
logical thinking.
Absolutely. And then it helps them make those decisions that they need to make while thinking logically. So that's just something that you guys could even use with anybody else that might need it.
There's this woman that had this TED Talk. It was so good. And she was talking about not hitting snooze in the morning. And that if you know, your alarm
One.
goes off, count 5.
Count to 5,
Count,
yes.
but count backwards because it engages
Yes.
your brain
Yep.
a little bit more. But it pulls you out of that emotional, you're stuck in your basal ganglia, your thought loop, and you're stuck in this negative thought pattern. And if you just force yourself to do something logical, it just automatically pulls your brain, your prefrontal cortex back online.
It's crazy what your mind can do. You have so much power in there that we don't utilize on a day-to-day basis. So,
And fear is just false evidence appearing real.
yeah.
So if you can, I mean, I still
love
have
that.
to tell myself that all
Say
the
that
time.
again.
False evidence appearing real.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good.
It's good.
It's not true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that faith that you have, that's truth.
Yeah.
That little voice that you hear in the back of your mind or in your ear, listen to it. That's the little voice that told me to call Legacy
To seek wise counsel.
to seek wise counsel.
Yeah.
Sitting in a motel room in West Side. I mean, yeah. I listened to that little voice that, you know, it's the same little voice that told me to put on these headphones and come up here and do this radio show.
and
It's
how
the-
amazing has that been?
I mean, look at you.
Who would have thought,
Come
you
on
know?
up, Carlos. Yeah.
I mean,
You got Gail over here.
I got
who's-
Gail over here. I get to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
So another thing is, you know, we talk a lot about women here because obviously this is an Empower to Speak show for women, but there's bound to be men out there listening to this or women that are in a situation that know a man that's in a situation where he has a woman that's pregnant. Any thoughts on some things that you would want him to hear about what he should be doing for this woman that's, you know, what should he do? What's his role in all of this? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there's men out there that want to be involved, and then there's also women out there that don't want their that don't want the father involved. You know what I mean? And I believe that the father has a choice too,
I agree.
to some degree.
So I think personally that we need to tell him to seek wise counsel first.
Yeah, I think that they
But
need to
then-
seek wise counsel as well. Yeah, you're right.
I think the other thing that's important that we see happen a lot with the guys that we're dealing with, and I don't know if either of you have experience in your backgrounds with this, but it's either step up or step aside.
Yeah.
Either step up and be a dad and do
Or
the
just
things
get
that
out
need
of the
to
way.
be done, or just get out of the way so whatever needs to happen can happen.
And the only caveat I'd throw to that is if there's laws being broken, right? Right? If there's abuse happening, or if something else is taking place, then I don't feel like that person has a right to choose.
And I agree. We work with those situations often, where we have women come to us that definitely are not in safe situations, and we choose to. Texas law allows us not to have to involve him. But you know, when we have him there and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do, and he's just in that back and forth situation of, well, I don't think I'm going to let you do this. Well, are you going to be a dad?
Right.
And
Because if you don't know, that's okay. Just get out of the way.
yeah, I mean, how important was it for you that with Trinity that her dad stepped in when you couldn't do it?
Oh my God. That was a lifesaver. Now, it took me many years and some therapy to be able to say that out loud, because for a long time I hated him. You know what I mean? I mean, but I was hated myself. It wasn't because I hated him. He didn't do anything wrong. You know, we just aren't good together, and that's okay.
It takes,
We're just better friends. You know what I mean? And he's a good parent. At the end of the day, he's a good dad. He just wasn't the greatest husband to me. That's okay.
And that's
But
awesome.
at the
that
end of the day, he is a good dad.
He's active in her life,
Yes.
and he's taking care of her.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Now, Hadley's dad, he chose to go over
Step
here.
aside.
That's fine.
Yep.
That's fine. That was the best choice. He has come back and asked me do you think I made the right choice? That's what do you think? Yeah, dude, I think you made the right choice, because that's what needed to happen. You know, here's a picture. Thank you for creating her. Her parents are thrilled as well as I am. She is beautiful.
Yeah. She's a
Yeah,
pretty
but
little
yeah,
girl.
you made the right decision. I reiterate that to him.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, you know, being here and educating the men and letting them know that they do have a choice, but at the same time, they need to know boundaries.
Yeah. And we offer services for them too, and that's what I think is so important is most men don't realize that they can come to an agency, at least Legacy they can come to, and talk to us, and we'll share with them what their options are and what's it going to look like for you to be a part of an adoption process. And, you know, if you're not going to do that and you're looking at taking this baby home, what is your role? What is that going to look like for you? And we talk about you need that family support. We talk about you need those resources. We talk about, you know, connecting them with different people to talk to that can help give them the counsel that they need as well.
Because they need it.
They do.
Yeah.
We all do.
It's so critical too when the baby's a newborn. Gosh, I remember those moments where like it's 5 a.m. and I haven't slept yet, and I've swaddled my baby. I'm shushing him. I'm walking him around, and I'm shaking, bouncing him a little bit. Like I'm doing everything all the books tell you to do, and you can't figure out why he's still crying. And you're like, I mean, it pulls everything out of you. Those long sleepless nights, like. It is no joke. That's the part of parenthood I think like most people aren't prepared for. You think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a baby and it's going to love
so
me.
Cute.
And,
Yeah.
But
They're
forget
so
about
cute.
it. I mean, if you've got work that you have to go to the next day and you have no partner to help you,
Or
no
exam.
family to help you,
Yeah.
you've got exams, that was where I was going next, and you've got no partner to help you, that's
You've got to
tough.
stay up and study, and then
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you do that? How did you do that being a single parent, and like with childcare alone?
Right.
I mean, that's hard.
Only with my family. I've had so many amazing resources. Moving back home, I'm so thankful that I listened to God and did, because not only did I find Embrace Grace, which is an amazing program. They're in hundreds of churches across the country.
Good to tell us
But
what
if
that
you-
is.
Yeah, if you actually, it's a program for single pregnant moms, and they just really walk alongside single pregnant women through that season. They have about a semester long of classes, so about 16 weeks, I guess, a few months of classes. And if you attend all the classes, you get to learn they have these amazing topics that, like Breaking the Chains, Carrie Oles books. I mean, they bring in different speakers depending on the location you're at too. But if you complete all the classes, then they throw you a baby shower at the end, and they give you
Oh.
everything you need for your baby. I'm talking
Really?
car seat, stroller, like literally everything. They have this really fun Princess Day they do too, which they get you all dolled up while you're
Wow.
pregnant. Like it's this huge party. It was amazing program. So I had that program, right?
Well,
that
and
you
what's
gave me.
awesome, let me talk about this for a moment
That
too
is-
while you're talking about it, because what's awesome is they also work with moms that are choosing adoption.
Yes.
And they go through the same curriculum so that they're really healing themselves and learning to love themselves and realize that God still loves them despite the fact that they've gotten pregnant out of marriage. But they do different things for women that are having an adoption. They do some sort of an adoption baby shower type thing. It's not a baby shower, it's more a celebration of them choosing adoption. And next month, I'm happy to tell you guys that we're having another mom come in that's been a legacy mom as well that went through Embrace Grace. And she chose adoption. So she's going to be able to get the other side of what Embrace Grace does for those kinds of moms, because I think it's such an amazing thing. And that's why I wanted to share that real quick, because they do work with both sides, with moms that are parenting and moms that are choosing to allow someone else to parent for them.
Now, some of you might wonder why Tiffany didn't go through that program, because Tiffany didn't find out I didn't choose adoption or even call and reach out for help until I was about 7.5, 8 months pregnant. We don't even know.
And afterwards, you didn't want to continue getting services with
No.
anything because you were not ready.
No. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, I don't need any help. I'm good. And, yeah.
But I had all these resources, so that was huge. Going to Valiant Hearts, having that supportive, resources that they helped me. They were the ones that funded me to go to my first national conference. I mean, they're part of the reason that I'm a speaker today. But I mean, my family, like if I didn't have my family being able to watch my kid while I go to school, it would have been impossible. I mean, all those things. If I would have been forced to go out and get an immediate full-time job to take care of myself, I wouldn't have been able to do anything I did.
Right.
Because I had that huge safety net of my mom and dad being able to say, hey, you can live here for as long as you need, and we will help you while you go to school and get your degree. If I didn't have that, there's no way I could have done all that by myself.
Yeah.
It would be impossible.
An absolutely incredible support for you.
Such an amazing story.
But there's been so many other things, like along the way, like Gateway has this program. They have a grant program for single pregnant moms or dads that I'm sorry, not pregnant.
Single pregnant dads, that'd be fun.
We're guys. They just think they're tough.
Right.
Exactly. That's exactly where my mind went. They wouldn't make it through the first trimester.
Right. But for single parents, whether mom or dad that wants to go back to school, the Gateway will actually walk alongside and pay your living expenses while you go to school until you graduate.
That's amazing.
Another huge, all these resources that I came across from Seek and Wise Counsel, right? From asking people and being vulnerable enough to say, hey, I need help. This isn't a private
And don't you
issue.
think that's key? Asking for help is,
Yes.
just asking.
Awakening to realize that you do need that help and you need to seek that wiser counsel around people who know more than you do. So seeking wise counsel doesn't mean having a powwow with your girlfriends and all talking about, oh, should I keep the baby or should I not? Seeking wise counsel to me means opening the phone book or searching on Google or whatever you want to do, whatever's aid is there for you, and reaching out and looking for counsel from somebody who's wiser than you, who
And
knows
opening
more,
your
who's a little
ears.
educated, and being open to.
And closing your mouth for a little bit, because oftentimes people forget that they need to really listen to what's being said and not be defensive, because sometimes the things you're going to hear aren't going to be things that are
I mean,
necessarily.
I know you
you
told
wanna
me some
hear
things I didn't want to
things.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, that's part of our job as professionals, is to make sure we're telling you how things really might be.
And that's the thing, too. Wise counsel, I'm glad you said that, like what it means to you, because it's not just like, oh, my girl that went through the same thing last year. Like, that's not my wise counsel, right? A wise counsel is somebody that has helped many other people, so they know how it plays out for more than just their own story.
Yeah. Most definitely. I mean, my friend could call and want to talk to me and be like, hey, let's talk. I want to compare stories. You know what I mean? We can do that. But I would rather refer her to talk to somebody that can help her more than I can, that knows those outlets and knows those programs that she can have this choice or this choice or this choice or this choice. And hey, guess what? We're going to love you no matter what choice you make.
Well, and not just that. I think it's really important that not only do we have wise counsel available by different programs that are there, but if you've got a friend that's willing to listen and be that ear, that can just listen and be that ear, you don't have to be judgmental then. You don't have to provide advice that they may not want to hear from you, and then they may walk away from you. You can remain that friend that's just there to listen and be supportive,
Yeah.
especially if they're willing to use the other programs that are available to them.
It's just viable. All of this information is so viable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of that, you said you go into strip clubs, and
Yeah.
tell me how people here. I mean, what
How
do
does
you do
that
when you go?
work?
Yeah, how does that work? How do you
Do
go
they
in
let
there? And
you come in there?
Yeah. Tell us. Yeah.
That's actually a really funny thing. We get asked that a
Yeah.
lot. Like, what in the world? Like, they know you're trying to get the ladies to leave, right? Like,
Right.
why do
right.
they let you in?
So how does that work? Yeah.
So at Valiant Hearts, we were founded in 2010 by a woman named Polly Wright, and she had been in the industry. She wasn't trafficked, but she had been a dancer in her not childhood, in her young adulthood, and she knew how hard it was for her to get out of the industry and how difficult that transition was. So she felt God was calling her to go into the strip clubs and just love on the women right where they were. So when we go into the clubs, we don't talk about God, we don't talk about Jesus. You know, we always take in gifts. I should have brought one. I don't have it in the car. It's a clear plastic bag. It has our logo on it. We usually have a special gift, like a bracelet maybe, or nail polish. We always have lip gloss in there, stuff that they would actually use. And then we have a handwritten note. I can't tell you how many the women, and the note says something like you're highly valued, or you're loved, or you're cherished. Just a positive affirmation that maybe she hasn't heard in a long time, right? And how many times we go into clubs and those notes are all over the mirrors. Those women save them and they put them inside their lockers, and just as a reminder. So we go in, and the sticky note is attached to an invitation to our support group. So in 2011, Polly rolled out our initial support group, which is called We Are Cherished. That's what the organization used to be called. And so it was designed for, hey, we'll just invite you to the support group, and we can walk alongside you. We can introduce you to God. And, you know, if you want to leave the industry, we'll walk alongside you and help you with that too. And so that's when I went in 2012. It was We Are Cherished. And so, you know, I thought, actually one of the girls I was in the life with called me and she was like, hey girl, there's this group of church ladies that wants to help strippers. Yeah, seriously. And she was like, they have this support group that meets in Colleyville. She was like, you want to go with me? Because it sounds kind of weird. Like, I don't want to go by myself. And I'm like, yeah, right. They're going to be all judgy. Like, but I was pregnant, and I was like, hey, it's free meal. Like, I'll go.
Right? Free food goes a long way.
Yeah, and so I went, and I never stopped going. I mean, for me, I got met with the most genuine embraces. They gave me this, like, goodie bag on the first night I showed up. You know how hard it was for me to accept a gift from somebody that didn't want anything from me in return? I was so used to being used and manipulated, and if anyone gave you anything, you better be careful because they're going to do something to
back,
you.
yeah.
There's going to be a favor they asked for at some point.
Or they're going to rob you, or, I mean, just terrible stuff. And so I had very, very low expectations of people, and instead they gave me that whole bag of, like, books and a journal and all this stuff, and they didn't care if I ever showed up again. They never knew that they would see me again. You know, that other girl that invited me, she never went back, and she's never gone back since. But for me, it just stuck, you know, and it stuck, and I found, it's kind of like I found my tribe, and so since that time in 2015, Polly Wright decided to take a sabbatical, and she asked Carrie Gurley to step in as interim executive director. And on that sabbatical, Polly really felt called to move on from We Are Cherished and to go on and become a speaker and an author, and what she's done. She's written another book, Be Ablaze, I think it's called. Amazing. I love her dearly, and I wish her the best. And so Carrie now was all of a sudden the full-time executive director of this organization, and so our board went to her and said, okay, Carrie, you know, this is your baby now. What do you want to do? And so Carrie prayed and thought and, you know, I'm sure consulted with a bunch of people and realized if we weren't attacking this issue in a holistic manner, that if we were just pulling women out of the clubs, that all we're doing is guaranteeing a job for ourselves tomorrow. There's always going to be more women. If we weren't going after the demand, right, for prostitution or sex trafficking, if we weren't serving the families of someone that's been trafficked, if we weren't in the schools preventing kids from becoming traffickers or victims themselves, right? If we weren't doing international work, we're in Iraq and the Philippines, we've been in Scotland, we're soon to be in Nigeria, hopefully, rescuing internationally trafficked victims and providing trauma-informed care in country. So that's when Valiant Hearts was born. So in 2016, we rebranded and we became Valiant Hearts, which has those 5 programs that I talked about. This year, we actually just opened an emergency shelter and we opened a 21-day stabilization home too. Because time and again, we've sat with these women in the darkest moments of their life, and here we are, you know, sitting with them on Harry Hines Boulevard and calling every shelter we can.
And you can't get them in anywhere.
No.
They're getting screened out everywhere. It's either they've used drugs or they haven't used drugs or they have a baby or they don't have a baby or,
They
you
have
know.
a felony, and you can't go in with a felony, and
Exactly.
mental health, you can't do that.
Exactly.
Right,
So
right.
we were like, you know what? There's a gap. There's a huge gap, and we need to address it. And so that's why we rolled out our housing program over this last summer, which has been we've only been open 6 weeks with our housing, and we've already had 8 women come through our doors.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do fund
How
that.
does somebody come in though? Like, how does somebody get that spot to get into housing with y'all?
Yeah.
So I go out with Tarrant County Sheriff's Office and I do stings with them. I go out and I'm sitting in the room, in the hotel rooms, right, where it's just like on TV, 3 different rooms, all the cameras set up, secret cameras, and the women think they're getting arrested. And I'm proud to say I'm super proud of Sheriff Bill Wayborn and Tarrant County Sheriff's Office because at least since I've been going out, they have no longer been arresting adult women for prostitution. And I've been able to sit in that room with them and offer them services instead of giving them a criminal record that's going to make it even harder for them to get out.
That's what's up.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So that's
Yeah.
one of the ways. Fort Worth PD also hands out, we have brochures that have a tear-off portion at the bottom with just a phone number on it, so the girl is able to keep it, even if maybe a trafficker or somebody might see it, they won't know what it is. So they're out there. So we're encountering a lot more crisis situations because of those two things. But we're very well networked within the community too. I mean, we fill up almost 150 volunteer spots every month. We have a small staff and we do a lot. So we're very volunteer heavy. We do a lot of events in the community. And so
Well, you could talk. What is the gala coming up? I also wanted to. Do y'all thrive on donations, or how do you?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to
okay.
say, when you were like, how do you do it? I was like, with the help of you.
Exactly. I was gonna say you
Yeah.
can put the link on there. You know. Yeah.
Definitely.
We'll make sure that we put
definitely.
that up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, join our circle of champions. That's what we call our monthly givers. But we definitely have, just grants from private foundations. Really, church partners have been amazing for us. Gateway is one of our church partners. Christ Chapel recently, just really 2 weeks ago, became a church partner. The Hills. I don't want to forget anybody, but there's so many. So we have a lot of church partnerships. So we have the private donors, and then we have one government grant. We didn't want to take a bunch of government grants because then they come with a lot of restrictions about what you can talk about and
Sure.
what you can share. And so we were very careful in what we get a government grant for. So we've limited ourselves to one, but definitely we thrive. The only way we are surviving is through donations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is so neat. Now, I was reading on your website, which is amazing, by the way. What is it entitled? Like, what do you need to do to sponsor or to counsel a butterfly?
So, like, say if you wanted to become one, is what you're asking?
Yeah, like, what if I wanted to help somebody?
Yeah. So, we have a volunteer orientation first Wednesday night of every month. So that would be step one for you. In which, I mean, that's the other thing is definitely donations are crucial, but we need volunteers. Like I said, we fill about 150 a month. So we have a huge need, and they're constantly there's this cycle that maybe they get pregnant or they get a job or they move and they fall off. So we constantly need new volunteers all the time. So first step would be doing a volunteer orientation. Second step, you have to serve at least 6 hours in another way so we can be around you before we allow you to become a mentor to one of our women. So we want to really know you and your heart, right? We don't just let anybody come in. So a lot of our volunteer opportunities, it's not that you're sitting in support group or that you're sitting in our emergency shelter with women. You may be cooking a meal, right? Which is huge because, I mean, for me, that was the only reason I showed up, right?
Yeah.
Because I was going to have a home-cooked meal, right? So every woman that shows up to our support group, we give them a $10 gas card because we never want money or gas to be the reason that they don't come. And we just want to honor their time. Some women, if they don't have cars, we'll send them an Uber if they want to be able to show up to support group. So there's all different ways that you can help out. I mean, what I love to encourage people is find ways to help in your own lane, right? There's this organization I found out about in Oregon that takes donated wedding dresses, and then they turn around and they give them to a survivor that wants to get married in a beautiful white wedding dress, right? So they have these free wedding dresses for them. I mean, just it's so unique, right? But tax services. I mean, just things with identity. Like there's what do you do in your life? And hey, let me figure out what kind of way can we access your have our clients access your services.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So excited to learn all this stuff.
I know.
We get to know the neatest thing.
We do.
We have the coolest job ever, thanks
so
to
too.
Legacy Adoptions.
Thank you. We do.
So what's this gala coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so September 28th is our gala this year. It's going to be at the Bowden in Keller, and I'm super excited. This will be my first one. So I just took over January 2nd is when I became the executive
Really?
director.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
recent.
Yeah.
So yeah, our gala is going to be amazing. It's really just going to be a night of celebration. Talking about all the impact that we've been able to have over the last year. So we expect about a few hundred people there. It's a really beautiful venue if you haven't seen it, but definitely go to our website, check us out on social media, and get the information. We'd love to have any of you guys there.
Oh, great.
That'd be
I'd like to
awesome.
come.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would.
Could do a live radio show from there, maybe.
We could. And we were just talking about that earlier. We might could do that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Where's it at again? What's it called?
The Bowden. It's a newer facility right off 1709 in Keller, on Keller Parkway.
Okay. And so you're going to have just different speakers? What goes on at the gala? What?
Actually,
or
this year we're not going to have a quote-unquote special speaker. It'll be Carrie Gurley. She's transitioned into the CEO and founder role, and she's focusing on international travel and domestic national travel to spread our model across the country, because we feel like the church is the answer. So she's going and training churches, doing like a 3-day intensive, like, hey, here's all of our programming, here's all of our curriculum. Now you do it, and you serve your own community. So she is doing that.
Kind of like a how-to guide.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So she and I will both speak. We have Erin Wild from Hank Radio. She's going to be our MC. And then, let's see, what else? We have a couple awards we give away every year. This is our 4th annual gala. So it'll be just a great night of celebration. We're going to have kind of an experiential feel this year. We'll have different tables set up throughout that will highlight, each table will highlight one program. And so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do a virtual reality experience with our outreach. So actually, my boyfriend has a virtual reality company, and he has decided to donate a virtual reality experience to the gala. And so we're going to have the camera in the car as women go, as they go on the outreach. And so you can actually put the goggles on, and you can look around the car like you're actually in the on the outreach.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just some really unique stuff like that. Carrie is about to go back to Iraq. She's been in Iraq several times now, and she's going to bring back a really special gift from Iraq. So we'll have an auction with a few really, really neat items tied into each program, and just a celebration.
So, like, if they go to Iraq, right, and help with sex trafficking over there, do they bring them over here? Or do they just give them services there to help them?
So we partner.
How does that work?
We partner with a super awesome organization called Freedom Shield. It's a former FBI agent. He created this organization, and it's all military, ex-special forces, ex-law enforcement, just ex all around bad but right.
Right.
Right. And anyways, these guys are all volunteers that, they have these unique skill sets, and they want a place to serve. And so they found this organization, Freedom Shield, and so they actually go in country and do rescues. They have networks set up in country that are actively rescuing people being persecuted by ISIS. So and they get them.
Scary though for them also.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, very bold.
And
do that.
Yeah.
Scary.
And so they bring them into the refugee camp, because everyone else is living in refugee camp still. And so what we do is we come in, Carrie comes in, and she provides that trauma-informed care. So with the use of translators. And what we're doing is we're trying to train their own community. Like, hey, this is how you care for people that come back. Because they have no idea. I mean, these people are like in full catatonic seizures. They've experienced so much trauma. They can't eat. They can't sleep. I mean, it is horrendous, the stories that come out from over there. But so what we come in and we provide that trauma-informed care. We're actually, this next trip, Carrie's going to be setting up a teleconference system so that we'll be able to talk to the women in camp from here. So there won't be as many international trips, and it's a lot safer that way, right? Because,
Yeah.
like, raise your hand if you want to go to Iraq right now.
Right.
No.
Right.
I think I'll
Like,
pass.
it's scary.
Yeah.
But
Like, I was like, they picked one of the scariest places.
Right.
We have an organization here in our community, and they reach out internationally, and I know they go to Belize a lot and help out there. And to me, that's just so scary. You know what I mean? To travel to another country and reach out. I mean, you hear horror stories all the time on the news.
Yeah.
About so and so going over here and ISIS getting them, or going to Mexico and them getting killed.
Well,
you
trying
know?
to go into somewhere that there's already high crime and there's things going on that shouldn't be happening in our mind, but in their minds,
It's normal
that's their
life.
way of life.
Yeah. Like, do we mind our own business? Do we play it safe, or go out there and save lives? I mean,
right. I think we're called to help other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Definitely
right?
a calling for the, I guess, is it men and women that go out there and
Yeah.
go to,
I mean, I think it was Martin Luther King that said, correct me if I'm wrong, and justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? So, I mean, to stand by and do nothing, I think, is is the epitome of that statement, right? I mean, it's threatening justice everywhere. I know. I don't think that we need to go back to our colonial days, right? And go in and like force our religion and force everything on people. But I think going in and just helping them where they are and loving them where they're at and not trying to change them into us, I think has to be done.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's exactly what you do with, I mean, just talking in your little program that started out in the strip clubs. That's what you do. You go to them and love on them where they're at.
Exactly.
And that's what we do with a lot of the women that we work with, is you just love on them in the position that they're in at that point in time, because that's the best thing you can really do for a person, is to love on them and make them feel safe. And then once they feel safe and cared for, then work can start happening. If they don't believe in you and they don't trust in you,
Well, and that's one thing. I mean, meeting you, as obviously you were dating my brother, right? And we kind of talked about this a little on the break, but you know, you were doing something else, and then you guys decided to found Legacy, and just getting to know you through that process, Tina, has been just so eye-opening, like understanding what adoption could look like, or understanding, you know, just the way that you love those women right where they are, like you just said. Like, it blew my mind, because I thought an adoption agency would just be like, hey, give me your baby. We don't really care about you. Like, thanks for the donation.
Y'all are so
and
much
that's
more.
what it is, unfortunately, for many agencies. And that's what I had seen through many places I had worked, and I hated that. To me, how can you take this baby from somebody and not love on them and help them be in a better place?
Right.
What are you doing for that person? You're not doing anything for them. And yeah, gosh, I can place a baby for adoption. How many families are out there that want babies? That's the easy part. If
But
we're
like-
not loving on these women, helping them become better women, then who am I? What am I doing in this world? I'm not helping make anybody or any place better than it was to begin with. And that's not what the Lord has called us to do.
Exactly, because I mean, if they go out and get pregnant again, it's going to be the same exact thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's just
If-
gonna
if
be
no
a
one's changed
repeated
her
pattern.
life. Yeah.
But
A
I can tell
repeated
you,
pattern.
many agencies live on that recidivism rate of moms that get pregnant, they don't help them, they have a baby, they go on, they come back again a few years later, they have another one. I know agencies that had moms that had 4, 5, 6 babies,
Yeah. It's tough.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
But
It's-
how, like, versus you, how many women have you guys helped go to school or
Oh, yeah.
get jobs
get
or just
GEDs and get connected with different agencies. I mean, it's awesome to see women come back to us and say, we've been able to put our lives together because you put us on a path that helped us move forward. And we have this amazing relationship with our adoptive family and our child because you helped us put it into place. I mean, those are the things that are awesome. When I get to look on Facebook and see, like, our family that's coming next month, you know, when I get to see things like the birth family here in Texas flying to California to go stay with the adoptive family, to go on a mission trip down to Mexico with the adoptive family that has their son and grandson. I mean, how incredible is that? Because we were able to, just by God's grace, find a family that was the right fit for them. And not all agencies do that. Some people just say, this is your family, or these are the 3 that you get, and it has nothing to do with you wanted. That's not what we believe you need to do. We really look at what the needs are of the woman and of the child. And
You look
try
at
to
both
really-
sides, though. This is where she's magic, because she places. It's just like with Hadley and her parents. You knew who would be the right fit.
We knew
And-
what was needed to
right.
make that situation work.
And you look at that on both sides, on the adoptive and on the birth parent side. And if it doesn't match, and if it's not going to be a go, she's gonna let you know it's not going to be a go, and then that's going to be okay. We're going to find one that's going to be a match, and everything's going to be fine. But I loved that. I also love that about Legacy is you love them no matter what.
Yeah.
You loved me no matter if I chose the right path right away or if I waited a year or when I called her, she knew who I was. She didn't forget me.
I cried.
And she cried. It was like, she's finally called. So,
You don't know how many times with our moms and even the moms that don't choose adoption, that choose to parent, that we wonder when we don't hear about them,
are they okay? Are they
are
alive?
they okay? And we don't necessarily want to be that person, especially with our moms that do choose adoption, to call over and over and over, because you could be pulling that Band-Aid off of a wound that's
It's like you
healed.
respect those boundaries.
Yeah. But
You know?
gosh, for us, knowing and hearing from our moms and our adoptive families is so amazing, because we get to hear those stories and those happy endings and get to see what's happened because of the work that, all our amazing options counselors are doing.
Yeah. Y'all are pretty amazing. Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Christy Braddock,
Oh,
That-
yeah,
right?
Christy, what's
She's,
up?
and let's see who else we got to. Cynthia.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Where are you? I'm not seeing her.
Christine. Yeah.
Did they ask a question? Or you?
I was just giving
they're
you,
just
saying
giving you a
hello.
shout out.
Give her a shout out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cynthia.
Mammy. Mammy was watching.
Oh, of course, there's Mammy. Hi, Mammy. Tina. Hi, Tina. Lynette. How you doing?
Hi, Denise. Denise from the
Yeah.
Silver Senior Hour.
Yes,
was
I just
tuning
saw
in.
them. Courtney Anderson. Hello. Vicki Graham. Hello, Camille.
We had a lot of
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
did.
people watching
We did.
tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Does Legacy have anything coming up here?
We have
soon?
babies coming
I
up. Our big thing is always, just loving on our moms that we're working with. We just had a mom that had twins. Actually, what's amazing, when we first opened as an agency, we had one set of twin placements. And I had never, in my, at that point, like 17, 18 years of adoption work, had never placed twins. And we had a set of twins that were older. They were, I think they were about 12, 18 months at that point. Maybe it was 13 months. And that was our first year. So 2013 was the first year we placed babies. And then had not had twins since then. We've had 2 sets of twins this summer that we just placed. So it's been amazing
Wow.
seeing families blessed with not just one baby, but
Oh,
2
how
babies at
special.
once.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
super exciting. We've got a lot of moms right now that, if you guys could pray for them, we have some that are in some very challenging situations. And they're trying to figure out what the right path is. And they're really, needing to not only seek the wise counsel of us, but other wise counsel as well to figure out what directions they're going. So those are
So
some
pray
big
for
things. Please
them
pray
to
for them.
Make
Yeah.
better decisions.
And it's not even make better decisions, but to see what path is right, to really be able to have that soul-searching ability. I think that's what's important, is to really have the ability to look at their lives and the lives of what their child's going to be experiencing and see what's important for them.
Because it's not just deciding like what's the right thing today, right?
No,
it's
it's
deciding
not.
what's the right thing when I have 5 sleepless nights, right? What's the right thing when I want to go back to school, or
Yeah.
right in 5 years from now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I was
think
gonna say that. Like, look at yourself now and today, and then I try to tell this to my friends. Like, think of yourself in 5 years, but think of yourself in 5 years in the best place you could be.
the best me I could be.
The best me I
can
could be in
possibly
5 years.
Is that enough?
Yeah, is
For
that
some
enough
people
to?
it
For some
is.
people it is, but for some people it's not, and that's okay.
And for some people, it may be in 5 years, but what about 1 through 5? The first 3 years, there's curriculum out there that's called the first 3 years that talks about the development of a child during those first 3 years. And it's not that kiddo laying in a car seat or laying in a crib. It's the interaction that happens. Brain development, critical brain development happens during that time. And oftentimes those synapses aren't being developed that need to happen between the left and right hemisphere. And those kiddos are just at a different level intellectually. They're at a different level in terms of how they function socially. And it's because of the lack of interaction that they have received during the times of those first 3 years. So that's really a critical thing for people to remember. But something, I just remembered something. We just got a new website today.
What?
Okay.
Yes, we have a
Okay.
brand new updated website for 2018. We're super excited. We've been able to put some of our families and moms and babies on there. So some of our legacy, a lot of that's real legacy, legacies. So we're super excited about that. We're really
Fantastic.
hoping that it's a resource for just moms that are currently trying to figure out what to do. Dads, we have a section on there just for dads. We have a section on there for people who already have babies that don't know what they want to do, or toddlers, what they want to do. We've got a section on there for family members and friends.
I love it. It says a modern adoption agency.
Yes.
Nice.
And so we're super excited. So check it out, www.legacyadoptions.com. We're super
I put the link in the
excited about it.
comments. I'm checking it out. It's
Awesome.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Nice.
super proud of it. It's been a lot of hard work, and we're super proud of where we've gotten to with it, because we're really hoping that it's a resource for many, many people
I love it.
that are taking the time to seek wise counsel.
That's
So
awesome.
This has been such a great show.
Yeah, it's got some videos on there. Is that
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
nice. I wish.
we need to make a video of Tiffany,
Okay.
because Tiffany can share her story on the website
Yeah.
for all those
For
women
everybody.
that are
She's
still
so good. I
looking
get so
out
excited
there.
when I hear
Yeah.
your commercial.
Yeah.
Just you talking about legacy, and
Yeah.
it's
Well, I thi-
exciting.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
do a
what's
video.
crazy is, something like you doing a video, and this
Yeah.
is what I'm talking about. So our website, it's great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information on there. But the first step is picking up that phone and making a phone call. And so many people are so scared. I'm sure you were scared having to make a phone call to your parents and say, I need help to come home. You were terrified, I'm sure, in that hotel room going, I've got to make this call to Legacy. Again, that doesn't mean I'm, quote, giving up my baby, because that's not what you're doing at that point. You're gathering information, getting the counsel you need to make an educated decision. So, I would really encourage anybody out there to know that it is truly okay to pick up the phone and make that first call, because all you're doing is asking for help. All you're doing is asking for somebody to provide you information, and we're going to be there to listen to your story, to help you, and hope to love on you and pray with you and figure out what's the right thing.
Yeah. That's the best thing about it, is they help you figure out what's the right thing to do. I mean,
and then for those people who have now gone to our website and have been legacy families or been legacy moms, the best thing you guys can do to help us out is give us a review. Because reviews. Everybody looks at reviews, and the more positive reviews, the more moms go, you know what, they are a reputable, good agency. And as a newer, younger agency, we could really use that as well.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll leave a review. I'll also do a video, so we'll get
Okay, we'll
together
set
and we'll
that
get
up.
that done.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't mind sharing my story.
Yeah.
But we do have to get out of here a little early tonight. We have our IT guy. Yes. Gotta get home. But thank you so much for coming all this way to our little Johnson County radio
Yes.
station.
Yeah.
And
What a
sharing your
pleasure.
story.
Thank
I could
you.
listen to you talk.
I know. I was telling her I'm just in a trance listening to her. I mean,
know,
it is
right?
incredible. Yes.
I was glued.
I was too.
was
I
so
was
good.
too. So apologies
Thank
for
you.
ignoring
Thank you
people
for
that were tuning
sharing
in.
and bringing her.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I knew you
I
guys would
cannot.
love her.
I'm just excited you're here because you weren't here last month. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to come and see the new studio, and
I
I'm
am too.
excited for next month.
Me too.
And to learn all about that, and
Yeah.
and to meet another is it another adoptive mom, correct?
Another birth
birth mom.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Totally different story, totally different perspective. So it'll be fun to be able to share a different kind of adoption and what her
Yeah.
story is.
Looking
And
forward
her
to that.
family, because she, her mom is going to come on the show with her because she's a teen. And so she has a totally different perspective on adoption. So I think it's a much needed story out there because,
Yeah.
too many teens think that they have to do this. Too many moms and dads of teens say, you did this to yourself, you have to parent now. And that's
Right.
not the approach that should be taken.
Right.
A baby's not a punishment. A baby's a responsibility, and that responsibility may mean choosing something different than taking that baby home.
And either way, you love them through it.
Yep.
That's the best part.
And that's exactly what Wendy did with her daughter Hannah. So it'll be fun to share her story.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for partnering with me and doing this show
Yeah,
and
it's been
helping
wonderful.
educate our community and other communities and just bringing good and turning what could be a very negative, sad situation, bringing hope that people can change and wake up tomorrow and decide they want a different lifestyle, decide they want to be
And
a
it can-
parent,
yeah.
decide they want to not be a parent. It's okay. God still loves you. We still love you.
Yeah.
And there are other options out there. Just seek wise counsel and get educated.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, have a good
Like that.
evening, and I will see y'all in the morning for JoCo in the morning. Bye-bye, guys.
Good night, friends.
Bye.